Hello, my name is Adrian Zammit, and this is my visual narrative presentation, A Story for You, subject EEC4101. Don't forget to press space as you are going through the presentation. Thanks, and enjoy. During my time at Newlands Primary School, I was exposed to a variety of different learning environments. I found it particularly interesting to see the inquiry practice model being regularly used in each of the classrooms. During my placement, I chose English to be my specialisation area. Using the Victorian curriculum, I developed a set of pedagogical approaches such as the Fontest and Pinel benchmark assessment system, explicit teaching, pedagogical and instructional models, the HITS models, chunking, and student feedback. All of these strategies help me deliver a successful learning outcome. The English curriculum is organised by language modes and strands. This is the structure. The modes are reading and viewing, writing, speaking, and listening. The strands are language, literature, and literacy. Within those are substrands, which I observed during placement, such as text structure and organization, expressing and developing ideas, responding to literature, examining literature, interpreting, analyzing, and evaluating. Now that we've covered some of the structure around the English curriculum, how do the ASOS standards link to my overall goals? 2.1 Content and Teaching Strategies of the Teaching Area. The main English focus during my placement was persuasive writing techniques. The content and teaching strategies of this area revolved around various components of persuasive writing techniques. The pedagogical approaches to this topic was a discussion with my students about what persuades them, what does persuasion mean. My students were then introduced to a variety of different persuasive strategies such as alliterations, emotive language, evidence, metaphors, and more. I used a top-down approach strategy to help coordinate the students into the topic and understand the concepts. When teaching the students about persuasive writing techniques, it was important to have an engaging, welcoming environment for learning to take place. Piaget and Vygotsky, both learning theorists, equally agree that environmental and biological factors both play a part in children's development. Flint 2016. We started with a simple activity called the persuasive hats that allowed the students to form a structure to their persuasive writing sentences and paragraphs on a topic they liked. This was a great way to introduce structure to the persuasive writing topic. Finding structure. The content was structured in this order. Reflecting on our own experience as an introduction to the persuasive writing. We use discussion and reflection, peer-to-peer discussion, identification of persuasive writing techniques, persuasive devices, acronyms, aforist, alliterations, facts, opinions, repetitions, emotive language, statistics, rule of three, and persuasive conclusion. Purpose with a call to action. The content descriptors below were the content descriptors seen during my placement. There are also an array of online resources that were available as given to me by my mentor teacher, one of which was the Twinkle website, which I used to gain various resources. Curriculum, assessment and reporting. The students were formatively assessed using two methods. Using substrand expressing and developing ideas, students learn how, in a text, effective authors control and use an increasingly differentiated range of clause structures. The main idea was that students had the opportunity to discuss and develop their ideas with their peers and friends to further enhance their persuasive writing. This would be part of their formative assessment, as they would be able to verbally discuss with me, the teacher, the concepts and strategies of persuasive writing. For the second formative assessment task, students would write a short persuasive written piece on why I should like dogs, using all the persuasive writing strategies discussed in the previous lessons. Furthermore, to enhance the learning, the persuasive topic, dogs, was one in which was interesting to the students. Effective literacy teachers depend on knowing students' interests, abilities, and experiences to help formulate an engaging and fun lesson. Other informal assessment strategies were also used, such as anecdotal notes, draft writing, verbal reflection, and recollections. ICT was predominantly used at Newlands Primary School to further enhance students' access to information. The students used iPads and laptops to further enhance their ICT skills. Newlands Primary School also promoted the use of OneNote to help elaborate on essential skills. Strategies such as chunking and syllables can be used in the OneNote application. ICT was also used to play a large part in helping students develop a final year project. According to the Victorian curriculum, ICT is used to support and enhance learning. ICT was a major medium for teachers to document and structure learning progressions for students. It was also used to communicate with parents to help collaborate reports for them at the end of term. This internal ICT network is very important for the teachers, as it seemed to be the main source of documentation when tracking students' progress. At Newlands, ICT was a great resource for students to learn, collaborate, and develop their own ideas and ways of coming up with different strategies to enhance their learning. I used differentiated strategies and the curriculum strands and substrands to establish challenging learning goals for my students. One of the main challenges with the students was setting challenging learning goals for each learning level. There are 3 learning levels in one grade at Newlands Primary School, each with different targeted learning strategies derived from the HITS teaching strategies, high impact teaching strategies. The objective with differentiated teaching was to lift the performance of all students, including those who are falling behind and those ahead. Using the curriculum strands, substrands, and the HIT strategies, I was able to establish targeted challenging learning goals and set the expectations of students to a high level corresponding to their learning level. At Newlands Primary School, a planning day is dedicated to the teaching staff. There is a learning leader who helps collate the scope and sequence from the curriculum and links this with the inquiry topics. The teachers then use a range of teaching strategies to plan and deliver the content. It is an effective way to make sure that the curriculum content links with the learning strategies when planning for the week. The teachers also used students' feedback. They would invite some of the students to the planning days to help give feedback on what worked well in previous lessons and what they would like to learn for future lessons. It is important in the modern classroom to understand the social intellectual development of students. This includes knowing each student, building a positive relationship with them, understanding their cultural backgrounds, their beliefs, and build connections with them and their everyday life. Enable a collaborative, positive, safe workspace where ideas can be shared. Provide resources that encourage deep thinking and innovation, updated ICT. Ensure a safe and well-balanced classroom and learning space. In Australia, we are often seen as the lucky ones, Irving 2013. But many children are still disadvantaged because of their social economic status and background. It is up to us as 21st century teachers to make sure our learning environment differentiates these factors and we build a learning environment that allows for all kinds of students to thrive. Students who come to school from backgrounds other than those that are dominant in our Anglo-Saxon Western society often find assumptions that their formal intended curriculums don't match their own life experiences and beliefs. Irving 2013. So how do we overcome these issues? Well, I have some suggestions. As we understand our students, we understand their needs. Developing and planning appropriate curriculum outcomes using the strands and substrands of the English/literacy curriculum to build physical and social intellectual developments. That could mean understanding their background and their experiences. Making connections between the curriculum language modes, reading and viewing, writing, speaking and listening, to develop social and emotional interactions with peers and teachers outside the classroom. Understanding why students behave the way they do, and maybe incorporating things that interest them and their cultures and their backgrounds. During my placement, I analysed the content descriptors of the English curriculum to suit my lessons. The content descriptor analysed the text structure and language features used in the imaginative, informative, and persuasive text to meet the purpose of the text, provided a way for me to assess the intellectual development of students. I would then link this with other social development content descriptors and incorporate these as part of my assessment to make sure my lessons were targeted in developing intellectual and social developments of all my students with reference to the Victorian curriculum. It was important to make sure that all of my students were developing not only intellectually but socially as well. The Victorian curriculum was a great way to see links between intellectual development and social development by pairing up different content descriptors, as you can see. Following on from the last slides, in our classroom, we talk about culture and language a lot. Some of the advanced language lessons at Newlands Primary School are fully delivered in Spanish. All students from grade 1 to 6 learn Spanish or are exposed to a full lesson in Spanish at some point in the term. In my class, I am able to utilize a Spanish interpreter and other teachers who speak Spanish to make sure that we as a teaching team deliver our lessons with some level of Spanish. The benefits of learning another language across the school: we as a community are able to understand diverse linguistic backgrounds, culture, religious and socio-economic conversations, and the students are able to draw on their own experiences from learning a different language. We have 3 Indigenous students in our class, and they will happily share their experiences about their culture and what it means to them. They often link themselves with Indigenous AFL players and talk about their successes. At Newlands Primary School, funding is not always provided for the students. It takes a team of staff to make sure that the right funding is utilised, and that can sometimes mean a delay to where it is needed most. In our class, we have students with disabilities, low socioeconomic students, and ESL students. On the other hand, we also have students who are high achievers and progressively score well in most subjects. In my classroom, we use differentiated learning strategies as a way to make sure all students have quality education. Although this is the main strategy, it is also important to apply relevant pedagogical approaches to make sure that the learning is targeted. So what does this mean for our students? I believe a curriculum reform is needed to make sure all students are cared for. A curriculum reform implies more than change. It is a direct assertion that this change will bring about improvement or enhancement. Irving, 2013. In my classroom, I would do exactly that. Another way we try to help our students is using data. For example, the NAPLAN results. Teachers can decide what to do with this information and how they will use it. Below are a list of some points that teachers have used throughout the school to help improve their learning practices. So the content, what students are expected to learn. The process, how teachers will teach and how students will explore or understand their learning. Types of instructions and activities undertaken in the lesson. The product, how the students demonstrate their learning and the learning environment. The physical and effective nature of the classroom. Classrooms should be stimulating and conducive to learning, and a place where students feel valued, safe, and supported to take risks to support their learning. It's from the Victorian State Government 2019 website. Back to the ACEL standards. In this slide, you will see ACEL standards 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, and 3.6. In 3.3, using teaching strategies, a range of teaching strategies, I use the HITS teaching strategies, integrated games, thinking pairs, shared learning, look, cover, check, use images to infer text, a top-down strategy, think about thinking, and the 5 E's of learning. In 3.4, demonstrate knowledge of a range of resources including ICT that engage students in their learning. Students will use iPads, laptops, and programs to enhance their learning at Newlands Primary School. When editing their work, the students will also have options to use their iPads to highlight their work, see image, to help them understand the task. Other modes of ICT are laptops, the interactive whiteboard, an Apple TV, and OneNote. In 3.3, effective classroom communication, demonstrate a range of verbal and non-verbal communication strategies to support student engagement. So for the verbal, some effective classroom strategies I have used are the 3-2-1 focus rule. Some other verbal focus strategies I have used is reinforce on the lesson after the countdown. I use a stop, look, listen, think strategy. And I also use ready to rock, students ready to roll, as you can hear from the guitar tone. Some non-verbal strategies I would use would be to turn off the lights, to play music, particular types of music that students understand what tasks needed to be done. But the main strategy I would use would be to stay silent until the students are quiet and understand that it is time for the teacher to talk. In 3.6, evaluate and improve programs using a broad knowledge of strategies that can be used to evaluate teaching programs to improve student learning. I can continue with planning and evaluating teaching practices with my teaching team. I attend regular personal development sessions to also enhance my pedagogical teaching practices. Standard 3.7, engage parents in the education process. Describe a broad range of strategies that I use to involve the parent in the education process. Engaging the parents/carers in the educative process is an important part of the school ethos and values. The parents organise an activity day with the students to learn about the Indigenous heritage of the Merri Creek Reservoir. The parents set up different activities in a designated area of the parkland just next to the creek. There was also an Indigenous Koori member from the Moreland City Council there as well. The students were able to experience a range of activities outlined in the Reconciliation Victoria guidelines. Some of the activities the parents created are listed below. Understand local plants like the wattle tree and its significance to the Indigenous people of the land. They would use rocks to face paint and create tools. They would create a bracelet from local plants and understanding different plants have different purposes. They would also understand irrigation and its significance to the Indigenous people. Through both metropolitan and regional Victoria, Reconciliation Victoria works with an independent network of local reconciliation groups who promote cultural awareness and understanding. This is how the parents involve themselves in the school, and we work together as a community. Following on from the last slides, these activities that the parents organised with the guidance of the teachers promoted a great day of fun and involvement for all. The ACEL standards also highlights developing collaborative and communicative relationships to build trust and to unite learning at home and at school. ACEL 2017. This experience encouraged parents and carers to become involved in the incursion, as I like to call it, immersing themselves in their child's learning. Newlands Primary School proactively involves their parents in the learning process. Some of the parents have decided to work with the school to deliver other types of programs with a focus on benefits to the community and have become an integral part of the school's curriculum decisions. Standard 5.5 Report on Students' Achievements demonstrate an understanding of a range of strategies for reporting to students and parents and carers and the purpose of keeping accurate and reliable records of students' achievements. I have actively been involved in reporting on students' achievements. I have used a range of strategies to assist and report on their progress and have documented these academic journeys with my mentor teacher. Some of the strategies I have used during my placement are a work sample. A work sample was the number one strategy documented evidence of my students' learning journey. One of the main literacy topics taught during my placement was persuasive writing, as mentioned in previous slides. This was documented with work samples, see attached artifact, that the students completed. If parents or carers required evidence of their child's progress, it could be produced using this strategy. Another strategy was anecdotal note-taking. This strategy was used as a formative assessment strategy. I would take anecdotal notes with the students who had been identified with learning challenges. Differentiation strategies were also in place for these students as well. Continuing on from the previous slide, ACEL Standard 5.5 report on students' achievements. Other strategies used to report on students' progress and discuss with the parents are conferencing, running records, formative and summative assessments and reports, the Fontas and Pinel benchmarking system. Please see attached artifact. Parents would be able to see these results and have a better understanding of their child's learning needs in English. This is the advantage of the Fontas and Pinel benchmark system. We use some standardized literacy tests and the NAPLAN results. All of these linked back with standard 5.5. That concludes my presentation. Hope you enjoyed my journey and thanks for listening.